Hey everybody, my name is Matthew Sambanis. I'm a certified public accountant. My firm is based in Long Island, New York. And today we're going to talk about massive inflation, why we've had massive inflation, why it's here to stay, and even if it goes back down to 2%, that doesn't help in terms of those gigantic prices that we just experienced in the last few years. And most importantly, how to survive or at least profit off of it. So I'm not going to say the government lies. Maybe we'll say that they embellish. How about that? They've come out with numbers annually for 2, 4, 6%. From what I've seen as an everyday human being living life, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you've seen it as well. I'd say over the last few years that we've seen 20 to 30% annually, to the point that maybe in a different video, but I could literally cite example after example after example of just prices that have doubled and tripled and quadrupled over the last 2 to 3 years. Case in point, rock wool, which is insulation, which before the pandemic, and I have the receipts from Home Depot, it was $30 a bag. It's now $80 a bag. That's more than 150%. I guess probably 180% 3 years later. Look at the price of everything else. It's through the roof. And the other issue we also currently have is gas prices are starting to go back up through the roof. They went down, but they went back up, and our strategic supply is only down to 40 days. Obviously, there's plenty of other oil in the system, but if we have some kind of embargo or some type of other emergency, we're dog due. So please leave comments in the section, in particular, if you've been dealing with the massive inflation. And the result of the true definition of inflation is the printing of the money supply, and the higher prices we experience are the result of the massive money printing. And the reason for that is too much money creates not enough supply and too much demand, and therefore prices shoot up through the roof as they have continued to. Another case in point, I went for 2 slices of pizza the other day. It was a Sicilian and a chicken Caesar. It was $11. I almost vomited, and if I wasn't half awake when I had ordered it, I probably would have told the guy to keep it, because that's just completely deplorable. And yes, I left them a bad review. So how do we know inflation is here to stay? Well, the Fed admits it. They literally say we hope to get inflation back down to 2%. The issue with that is before getting it back down to 2%, the plan was to average 2% inflation. Go, please look it up, do your homework. You'll see their idea was to do average 2% inflation. We've just had 20 to 30% inflation annually for the last 3+ years. So even if they get it down to 2%, that does nothing about these ginormous price increases that we've just incurred. So that right there says it all. If you don't want to watch this video any further, then that's all you need to know, and good luck. If you'd like to continue, then please stay on, and we'll hopefully get into more detail and more quality content that helps you. So how do we know that in addition to the Fed saying we hope to get inflation back down to 2%, not reduce it? Another tangent not to go off on is deflation. Why can't we have deflation? We want deflation. Lower prices means better. If prices went down, if rock wool went back down to $30 a bag, I would be ecstatic. I went to Chick-fil-A a few weeks ago. I got enough to feed myself and my fiance. It was $30. I, again, almost wanted to vomit. If Chick-fil-A was back down to $15, $20 to eat out for 2 people, I would be happy. By the way, I'm not religious. I just happened to go there. I was hungry. We stay out of controversies. Excuse me. So as to why 2% inflation is necessary is completely absurd. We want deflation. We want to pay less. Do you want to spend $100,000 on a BMW, or do you want to spend $50,000 on a BMW like you probably could have before COVID hit? Other issues are credit card debts at an all-time high. Trade deficits are at an all-time high. The reason for the trade deficits being at all-time highs is because Americans keep on consuming. And part of that we know they keep on consuming is because credit card debt keeps on going up past the trillion mark. I made a video about a week and a half ago about the credit card debt. Please watch it. De-dollarization, which this is a whole other topic for another day, but we have de-dollarization happening. The national debt is at an all-time high, another huge problem. And never mind the unfunded liabilities of the government. So the national debt, I believe, is about 33 trillion. That doesn't account for the unfunded liabilities. The unfunded liabilities are the cops' pensions, the teachers' pensions, retiree benefits, union pensions, etc. All of those are unfunded liabilities, and that's not factored into the national debt. So as an outsider looking in, even though I'm really an insider, but if I was somebody on the outside looking in, like another country, I would say, wow, this country is SOL. Getting on to my next point. I'm a little late on this, but a few weeks ago, the Federal Reserve met at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and Federal Chairman Jerome Powell gave his 15-minute speech. I contemplated doing a reaction video because I just kind of like when I got ripped off for 2 slices of pizza, I went to vomit. First, he said the Federal Reserve still has a long way to go to get inflation back down to 2%. Yeah, no duh, man. We just did 20, 30% over the last few years. Any sane human being who lives in the real world knows that. So, okay, fine. Even if you get back down to 2%, that doesn't solve all the massive inflation that we just had, that you're crushing the middle class, that you're going to continue to crush the middle class, and never mind the poor. Although at least the poor got massive benefits, a massive increase in their food benefits, which as a result of the food stamp program going up, that's also contributed substantially to the price that we've seen in food. So, yeah, you said we have a long way to go to get inflation back down to 2%. It's not happening. You know, I usually like to be optimistic. It's not happening. You're not getting it back down to 2% unless you put unless you put interest rates where they need to go, which is 10 to 12%, then prices aren't going down. And you want proof? Rent hasn't gone down, home prices haven't gone down, car prices haven't gone down, food prices haven't gone down. Nothing's worked. Raising interest rates to 5.5%, that's a joke. If you really want to fix this problem, then what you should have done is raised interest rates to 10 to 12% years ago, before you let the genie out of the bag. Then he goes on, the goal of higher, interest rates is, what he left out was the goal of higher interest rates is to reduce demand and let supply catch up with demand by raising interest rates, i.e. more production with less consumption, higher rates. Again, mortgages are more expensive, cars are more expensive. Whatever he's done thus far has not worked. And the goal of higher rates is to reduce demand. And how do you reduce demand? Well, if I could put my money in the bank and collect 10%, then I know I'm earning value versus the inflation by leaving my money under the mattress. Why else or how else do we know that inflation is not going to go down? The US government is spending money. They're spending money, and then they're spending more money. And then in another few weeks, they're going to come up and they're going to say, we have the debt deficit ceiling coming up. We have to raise the debt ceiling. And as a side note, we're broke when Janet Yellen comes out and literally says, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we can't pay our debts, right? Instead of saying, do we cut Social Security? Do we cut food stamps? Do we cut pensions? Do we cut government employee salaries? Do we cut whatever? They just say, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we can't, we can't pay our debts. That's like saying, if I can't go get another credit card, I can't pay my other credit cards. If I need to get more debt to pay off my debt, I'm toast. And that same applies to the country. And imagine what example we're set into the world by doing that. The government is also spending more than it takes in taxes, meaning a business is supposed to pull in $100 for the year. I guess it's obviously a very dog-do business, but they're supposed to pull in $100 a year. They're supposed to have expenses of $50. and have a profit of $50. The US government has $200 a year in revenue, $400 of expenses, and thus it's operating at a deficit and another problem. And that's why we're also broke. And according to Joe Biden, who we don't do politics, I'm neither a proponent of the left side or the right side. Hopefully this doesn't come back to bite me in the butt one day. But according to him, even though I don't think he knows what planet he's on, we have the strongest economy in the world. And 3 weeks ago, the Atlanta Fed, the Federal Reserve in Atlanta, came out and projected Q3 GDP growth of 5.6% for the third quarter, meaning the economy is booming. What's the problem with that? We're running a $2 trillion a year deficit in a good economy. If the economy goes to hell, which, let's face it, it has to, then what's going to happen? That $2 trillion a year deficit is going to go up to $4 trillion a year. And what's going to happen? That much more inflation. And then we have hyperinflation. And then we have a monetary crisis. And then we have a sovereign debt crisis. I mean, there's just so many issues brewing. It's just percolating. It's kind of like fighting an octopus who has 8 tentacles coming out at you. You don't know which one's going to pull you under and drown you. And that's what we have here. The national debt clock is 32.7 trillion. In the last 72 days, we added $700 billion to the national debt. That used to be an annual year. And now that's in 72 days in a non-recession. And that means 3.5 trillion annually. It's mind-blowing numbers. Going back to what I said before, the food stamp program under Biden, 100 billion, largest price increase in food coincided. So the second the government gets involved in something and they have good intentions, they want to help out poor people, which I agree with, helping out poor people, but not this way that everybody now suffers, and that good that you did is now more than offset because they're paying that much more. So you just had a wash. So the government is operating at huge deficits. They need to control spending. And Jerome Powell says he has nothing to do with politics. So what are you going to do, Jerome Powell? You're going to let the government continue to run massive deficits? Apparently so. And therefore, you will never get inflation back down to 2%. No less have deflation. No less have the goal to do the right thing by the U.S. By us U.S. citizens and raise interest rates to 11 or 12%. And yes, mortgage rates would go up substantially higher and everything else, but that's what has to happen to cure this. Going back to what I was saying before, the other night I went out, the root cause of inflation is deficit spending. The other night I went out to a local taco place. Their deal was 3 tacos was $15. That's absolutely psychotic. That's not a deal. That's like being ripped off for $15. Even Taco Bell. My friend went to Taco Bell the other day. He told me that he felt completely ripped off by Taco Bell, where I remember going there as a kid and you'd get 39 cents, you'd get cinnamon twists, which still is the best thing in the world in my opinion. But Taco Bell is expensive now. I stopped off at a McDonald's on the New Jersey Turnpike. I even took a photo. That will probably be another video. It was $18 for a Happy Meal. $18 for a Happy Meal. And yes, you could say it was on the New Jersey Turnpike, but there's so much wrong with that argument that you can't. And that means if you had a family of 4 and you wanted to stop off and get McDonald's, it would have come out to $80+ for. My mind's blown. I can't emphasize it anymore. And listen, if you're feeling what I'm saying, please leave a comment. Anyway, home sale prices haven't collapsed. Rent prices haven't crashed. Oil keeps going up. Food prices keep on going up. The savings rate has plunged. Higher rates should make people save. It doesn't. Credit card debt's at a record high. Credit has to go away. Lenders have to stop giving out loans. Another video for another day, or just watch my credit card video. And at the end of the day, we need much higher rates, but that would crash everything, right? It's not a problem until the stock market crashes. And I personally have an issue with that for multiple reasons. Number one is the stock market should crash. It deserves to crash. And it creates great opportunities for people who are shrewd and can buy stocks at a right time. And all these wealthy people keep on. And listen, I have money in the stock market. I have a lot of money in the stock market. I'm grateful I do. But at the end of the day, it needs to crash, and maybe something will change because this doesn't work. None of the government, no politician is speaking out about what government programs need to be cut. Donald Trump added on some new governmental arm. Joe Biden's continued to add on to the government. The government debt has just doubled with every last president since 2000. The other issue with the national debt is it's on autopilot and it keeps renewing at higher rates. So as interest rates go up, the national debt resets and it resets at a higher rate. And therefore, at some point, we're going to be spending more in interest rates than we are on military spending. Just completely psychotic numbers. The government is just, not operating like it should. Going to the solution, unfortunately, we need to go through hell. We need interest rates to be 10, 12%, if not higher. Everything needs to crash. Everything needs to reset. All of these service-based sector jobs need to be eviscerated. If they were created out of thin air, and the jobs that need to stay will stay, and the jobs that should have been there all along will emerge and reemerge, and talent and everything has to shift. But again, I can't emphasize it anymore. What's been happening doesn't work. And how do you know that having interest rates this high at 10 to 12% would help? Well, if you could put your money in the bank and earn 10 to 12%, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you go out of your way to accumulate as much money as possible and save every penny and cut out on your Nikes, cut out on your Starbucks, cut out on your Netflix, on your Amazon, on your Disney, on your Taco Bell, on your, the list goes on and on of how people waste money every day to keep up with the Joneses. If you could yield 10 to 12% safely, you would do everything and anything humanly possible to invest, to just put your money in the bank and collect that rate. And that's how prices have to come down. The demand would come down and therefore supply would go up. And then when supply goes up to a point, then the retailers and wholesalers and manufacturers have to lower their prices so that they come back down, and then there's an equilibrium. And that's not going to happen at 5, 6%, clearly. How to profit. So how to profit, I would almost say, how does this play out, right? If the Federal Reserve, which is playing cat and mouse or playing chicken, continues to raise rates, at some point they will crash the economy. And when they crash the economy, what are they going to do? Are they going to reduce rates, or are they going to say inflation is too high? My bet is that they will cut rates. And if you haven't guessed, I disagree with them doing that. They need to keep rates high. They need to crash the economy, but they're not going to. So in nominal terms, if you invest in the stock market, you'll probably be okay. In real terms, if you want to make money, I would suggest investing in gold and silver stocks and buying gold and silver as a hedge. And I would also look to diversify your portfolio. I would buy stocks abroad. I would buy foreign stocks. I would invest in foreign countries. I would buy foreign currencies. I would buy hard assets, whether it's comic books, baseball cards, Rolexes, anything like that should survive within reason. And as long as you do your due diligence, you will profit. Also save as much money as possible. And as prices continue to go up, stuff that is going to continue to go up, toilet paper, paper towels, all that other stuff, buy it now and hoard it. It's unfortunately a very sad time, and it's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. And so the best to do is make the best out of it. And so that's my opinion. That's what I'm personally doing. That's what I suggest you do. Again, don't take this as investment advice. You're responsible. Do your own due diligence. But hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if I left anything out, please leave a comment. If you'd like me to film a video on anything else in particular, please leave a comment, and have a great rest of the day.